be provided with the opportunity to participate in the conversations that offer education. Hopefully they're encouraging, as well as plenty of resources that can help to survive during these difficult times. Today's forum is brought to you by Integral Care, our sponsor, in partnership with the Austin Area African American Behavioral Health Network, affectionately known as 4ABHN. We appreciate their services to our community. So we're kickstarting Together We Heal with the topic of grieving during our new normal. As we know, COVID-19 has plunged our lives into a new normal. So our guests here today are going to help us talk about one of the aspects of this. Starting with the lovely Miss Kimberly Holliday, known to most as Lady Joy, is a social psychologist, radio personality, and KAZI 88.7 FM, a published author and motivational speaker with global platforms for inspiring people. She is a divine vessel for her passion to build people through genuine collaboration and relationships. Ms. Holliday is the Central Texas African American Family Support Conference Outreach Chair. She is active in the community and lives her life transparently, using only her smile as her logo and marketing. Hashtag Got Joy as her brand. Dr. Ulysses Moore is a licensed professional counselor. He is the founder and owner of the Hope Project of Central Texas, which provides community living supports and training to youth and families dealing with psychological disabilities. His proudest accomplishment is being retired First Sergeant of the U.S. Army with more than 28 years of service. Dr. Moore, thank you for your service. Just a few housekeeping rules. Hopefully you'll keep your phone on mute at all times. There will be times so that we can interact and we can talk with each other. And you will want you to raise your hand through the feature in your Zoom call, and then unmute yourself to talk when you are permitted to do so, or asked to do so, not permitted. If during this call you find yourself getting overcome with emotions or overwhelmed, as we are talking about a very heavy topic today, this is just a gentle reminder that you may want to turn off your video so that you can experience your emotions privately. And then lastly, if you would like to decompress after this forum by speaking to someone or just have continued support, we would please call 512-450-2258. We'll put that in the chat as well for you, and you can speak there with Dr. Moore. If you'd like to have a video conversation, please call or text your request. Without further ado, Ms. Kimberly Holliday, please take it away.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I did actually say hello to everyone. And, you know, we are stretching ourselves with technology because of COVID. As I mentioned before, I would like nothing better than to actually be in the rooms with you, sitting in a circle. I want to be able to hug you. I actually miss you so much. And that brings up a lot of loss for us. And so as I was sitting here thinking about what is our new normal, I started making a list of what that kind of looks like for me. So as I'm speaking to you, I'm really talking to myself, and this is my list. As I make this list, feel free, yes, and I'll be telling Lady Jane when she can go ahead and move to the next slide. So I welcome you. Hello, we're making this up as we go. So you can go to the next one, Lady Jane. So I was sitting here just making a list like, what is a new normal and what does that look like for me? So I'm working from home. I'm doing a whole lot of Zoom meetings all the time. My life is filled with a lot of uncertainty at this time. And for me, a lot of fear. And so that means a lot of anxiety. I'm watching the news a lot to find out about the new cases that are going on right here in Central Texas. We all know that the world is filled with a lot of political tension. That's a part of our new normal. I'm not seeing my friends, wearing masks, 6 foot social distancing, waiting in lines. Our celebrations look a lot different now. We get excited about car parades. We're not going to church like we used to anymore. We're getting used to streaming our worship services, and it's summertime. And so I'm missing Vacation Bible School at this time. We may even be getting used to watching old episodes on TV, or Netflix and chill may be becoming a normal for you. Today, I'll be attending a funeral. And so, homegoing celebrations of our loved ones is even looking a little bit different. If you are like me and you have friends who are seniors, we actually have to visit them through a glass. And the truth is, we don't really know when we're going to be able to put our arms around them. And I don't know about you, but that brings up some grief for me. So again, in the chat, because we're trying to figure out how this goes, if we were in a room, I'd ask you, we'd be passing around the microphone, and I'd ask you, and we give some space and some time for you just to talk about what this brings up for you and what your new normal looks like. So again, I thank each of you for being intentional and for being here today. So what is grief? Here on my slide today, grief does not discriminate. I wrote on my notes that it doesn't have an age, it doesn't see a color, it doesn't have a season, and it doesn't even have a time of the day that it likes to visit. But I want you to know that grief is normal and that it is a natural emotion and reaction to loss or change of any kind. And because we're talking about how COVID has affected our lives, like, we didn't get a notice that this was coming. All of a sudden, we were just told to shelter in place, and our lives just changed. I know that our kids came home at the end of March during spring break, and they just never went back to school. Everything just changed. And we thought that they were getting ready to go back to school. They may or may not, but everything's just filled with uncertainty. Of itself, grief is neither a pathological condition nor a personality disorder. If I can, I would just like to describe grief as intense sorrow, if you will, again, because this is the way we have to do it. If you have a definition, thank you, of grief that resonates with you, if you just want to chat those over, type those in, we'll be talking about those. Or Vicky, you're our moderator. Do you feel that now is a good time for us maybe to have a quick discussion? I can't see the chat, so I don't get distracted, but do you think now is a good time to talk about that a little bit before we move on?
Sure. I think now would be a good time. And again, we encourage you to type in the chat feature your word for, or your feeling about grief. What does grief look like to you?
What is it? Or even because we moved on to a new slide, what your new normal is, what that's looking like for you. Someone said that it's a very painful journey. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Erin. Loneliness. Thank you, Miss Watts, all the way in Dallas. Absolutely love and miss you. My new normal also too, I didn't really talk on the phone a whole lot. Sadness. Thank you for that, Francis. I'm allowing myself to actually pick up the phone when I see it ring because I want to hear your voice. Deep, deep longing for the way it was. Woo, we can just sit there with that for a little bit of time. Overflow and uncontrollable tears. Thank you, Shamika. That's right. I just can't hold it. I cry when I'm happy, I cry when I'm sad, but as of lately, my face just leaks a whole lot, right? When we talk about grief, and that's on one of my other pieces of paper, you know, depression and grief, they kind of look the same. And as you know, I wear a hat of the social psychologist, and I'm also helping people, but I also have to think about it for myself. It wears a lot of different hats, and we can use different words to explain the same thing, right? And so I've put up on this slide, we may use words like anguish, pain, distress, sorrow, agony, misery, devastation. Lately, I just been saying I'm just so pissed off. I put that on my notes. Someone said grief is deep hurting and sorrow from a loss. Also, we may use words like sadness. So What are words that you use to describe grief? Anyone have anything? And the reason I thought that this slide was important is because sometimes you might be looking for someone to say a certain word, and all of us don't have words to verbalize how we're feeling. Yeah. I imagine that the chat's going to be coming in really fast, and I may not be able to read it all. Deep sadness. That's correct. Thank you, Carrie. And so I want you confusion and just angry. Yeah. I want you to make room for that too, because I've been having a lot of anger, and you do know that behind your anger is a whole lot of sadness. And anger is usually the first thing that comes up. Yeah. And usually when I'm angry, I can do a whole lot of things. So yeah, check in with that. Anything else coming up for anyone else? Heartbreak. I wrote heartbreak on my paper. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I can't see everyone's faces, but again, I thank you so much for being here. I know for sure that all of our emotions were put in place for a reason, and every single one of our emotions has a story to tell us, and it's very important that you give each of those emotions time, right? So that you can listen to temporary hopelessness. Woo! That actually feels hopeful for me, because temporary means that it's not gonna last forever. That's good news. I don't know who said that, but that made me happy. Next slide. You can just keep chatting in there, okay? Oh yeah, that feels good. So, types of loss. Now, I put these in circles, and I'm a preschool teacher too in my olden days, so I like colors. They make me feel good. As we talk about and Dr. Moore, you can unmute any old time you want to. Dr. Moore was my professor, and so I just absolutely love him. And so anytime you want to say anything, jump in here. I tried to separate different types of losses, but when we start to talk about these, you will immediately notice that they all kind of start to overlap into different places, right? So I tried to separate them into social, physical, spiritual, and occupational. For social, I put family reunions. I'm missing those. Happy hours. This is not all my stuff, just some stuff. Club life, going to church, my friends. A divorce could be social, it could be spiritual, it could be physical, you see, it could be all of those things. And then for spiritual, I put, some people may feel that God has abandoned them. You may feel that you have lost your soul, lost your faith. You may have some church hurt. Ooh wee, that's a whole nother workshop. Okay, physical, a loss of health. COVID is real, and it is affecting people, and people are dying, and people are suffering. But there are many also some underlying health concerns that people had prior to COVID, right? So health concerns. Physical, shelter in place. I'm suffering. I'm lonely. Loss of a pet, loss of a home, had to move to a new city or state, a new country. You lost your car. You might have even had to move to a new part of the city. Okay, be typing in there some losses, any kind of losses. Occupational, a career change, loss of an income, loss of a job. My husband was employed for 20 years. In March, no job. I don't know when that job is coming back. I was a domestic goddess. All of a sudden, I'm having to work. Yes, loss of security. Thank you. I put on my paper, but I didn't know which box to put it in. Loss of freedom. I'm going to just sit with that. Okay. Y'all got some stuff? Keep typing. Death. Which box does that go in? Betrayal. Dr. Moore, come on, talk to me.
You're talking. You're doing a great job, Kim.
Okay, so yes, and I want to make note again that as you experience different losses, you can't neatly put it into a box. Someone said loss of trust, thinking everyone is sick. Ooh, that feels like loss of freedom right there too. I mean, yeah, Yeah, yeah. Hopelessness, lots of
And
things. And
and
you
you
may not.
kind of understand where they're coming from with that feeling. Sorry, but you kind of understand where they're coming from with that feeling, because when we go out in public, now we have to go out and just assume that somebody may have COVID-19 or we may have it. So yeah, that's a good feeling, and that was a good point they brought up.
Thank you so much for that.
Mhm.
So all types of losses, loss of seeing people's smiles. Thank you, Miss Lynn. I feel that way. I hate that mask. And it's not political. It's just that I can't see your smile and I miss seeing your smile. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Next slide. Dr. Moore, I'm going to actually turn it over to you at this time.
Okay.
And as I do, I want to mention that as we acknowledge and we start to experience these different types of losses, it can bring up um, losses that you may have felt yesterday or last year. And so pretty soon you'll start to like feel like, wow, I'm just feeling despair, right? And so therefore the spiral down begins. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more. And that's why we're taking this mental health minute today. So thank you, Dr. Moore. Next slide,
Okay.
Lady Jane. I'm getting good at this.
Okay, and we're going to talk about the stages of grief. But before I get into that, what I do want to acknowledge the person that talked about the elderly and their loss of contact, which is probably maximized due to the current events. But it wasn't that much before, prior to. And we're going to talk about at the end, we're going to talk about being a little more empathetic if you are one of those that are not experiencing the grief. Okay. Okay, so we're going to get into the 5 stages of grief. Understand these stages, they don't always happen in the order they're listed. Okay, sometimes you may experience the bargaining before you even get to the denial part, or you may get angry before you get to the denial. These are the 5 stages. They don't happen in any order, and they're not linear. They don't happen straight across. Sometimes you can go through anger and you can cycle back through denial. But these are the 5 stages we're going to cover. The shock and denial. What does that look like? I'm sure we've all been there where we've said things like, I don't believe this. No, this is not happening to me. This is not happening to me. The anger, we talked about the anger already. Somebody mentioned the anger, where you do get a little angry, and sometimes that's where that spiritual box comes in, because you feel like you've been betrayed, you've been let go, you're not being taken care of like you should be. The bargaining, you start to bargain. Well, maybe if I become this type of person, I can get past this. It can help me out. The depression, we all go through depression at some point. But depression during the grieving period is a little more deeper. And I think this is where we talk about how isolating grief can be. When you get in this depressive state, when you're grieving, very isolated. Just know that you're not alone. You're never alone. Okay, no matter how it appears, you're never alone. And then, of course, the last one is the acceptance and hope. Like Kim said about the temporary, what was that?
Temporary hopelessness.
Temporary hopelessness. Yes. Yes. Any hope that we can get during this period is great and outstanding. Okay. Has anybody went through those that you want to speak, or you want to mention, you want us to mention something that you experienced while going through one of those phases?
You'll need to either type it in the chat or unmute your phone so we can hear you.
Okay, some of the key points we just want you to remember is that the stages, they're not linear, okay? They don't go in no specific order, and it's okay if you experience depression before you experience denial. Some people may go straight to acceptance. It depends on, what the circumstances are for the grief You know, some grief is really temporary, especially when you're talking about long-term care that leads into hospice. You know, sometimes people have enough time to come to terms with what's going on. And
Dr.
so by the time the grief actually hits, they're already at the acceptance.
Dr. Moore, we've had a question in the chat. Nell asked if you could explain what it means to be bargaining. What is bargaining?
Oh yes, that's the one where we talked about, you know, we talked about where we saying, you know, from this point on, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go out and I'm going to start helping people. I'm going to consume myself. I'm going to bargain to consume myself in the community. I'm just going to consume myself in the community so I don't have to think about this. That's bargaining. Does that make sense? Can you hear me?
Thank you. I believe so. Nell,
Okay.
did that answer that? Did he answer that for you?
She said thank you to that.
Sure. Somebody asked a question. It was rather lengthy, but I didn't get a chance to finish reading. About the social work, they had a degree in social work.
So the question is, I have a degree in social work, but I can't believe that I couldn't recognize that I went through all of these when I recently lost a good friend and employee. It was textbook, even in this exact order.
Wow.
So more of a comment.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. And that happens to a lot of us because when grief strikes, we're not thinking about grief in terms of stages. You know, we're going through life events and things are happening and we're taking it as we go. And we're just trying to do as much self-care as we go through this process. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, I lost a real close family member back in 2014. Didn't think of any of this because it wasn't relevant at the time. I needed to go through these stages, you know, and that's the best part of grief. Grief is a good thing. Don't ever think grief is a bad thing. Grief is a good thing, and you need to experience these. You know, you're going to be shocked. You're going to go through denial. You're going to go through anger. You may go through bargaining. I can't say I really felt the bargaining thing, the depression. Went through the depression, sure, you know, acceptance and hope. And as you go on, when you think it's over, it's never really over because sometimes you go back and you think about that person and you enter that whole cycle again. But rest assured, grief stages are a good thing. They are a good thing. It's a normal part of the human experience. Any other question?
We did have Erin who wants to say something, but she can't raise her hand. So Erin, can you unmute your phone?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I just wanted, hey, I'm so excited to see you guys again. I saw you at the conference this past year, or this year. It feels like it's been 10 years.
Right.
But I work with the Christie Center and teach grief and loss at UT. And one thing that I think a lot of people question is that anger piece. They feel like it needs to be anger towards the person who died, or anger at God, or anger at another person who caused it. But it's really more like what Kim said earlier, where you're just kind of in this constant level of anger. You just are feeling like any little thing can set you over the top. So it's not necessarily anger directed at a specific grief target. It's just a general, I'm angry because I'm working through my grief.
Right.
Piece.
Very good. Thank you.
Dr. Moore, carry on.
Oh, you want me to carry on?
Yeah, we're going to move through this one really quick. I just wanted to say this. I thank each of you for being here, and we want to be very mindful of your time midday. So thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Moore. We'll go right through this one.
Yeah, and we're going to get into complicated grief when grief becomes complicated. Okay, and we talked about conflicting feelings caused by the change of a familiar pattern. And I'm sure right now we could all, if something happened and we had to experience the grief process, it would almost automatically be complicated because we got to go through a whole process that none of us are familiar with. I think Kim mentioned that she's getting ready to go to a funeral later on. That whole dynamic has changed, you know, that I'm sure some of us are, or most of us are pretty much aware of. That dynamic has changed, which makes it complicated, you know, when you can't go through your typical or your normal grieving process or the traditional or the ritual, whichever way you want to look at it. Grief is set up that way, or we had it that way, and now that little dynamic has changed, so it does make it a little complicated. And it represents the end of what's familiar, which we just stated, and the lives are different, and wonder if recovery loss is possible. And we always think, you know, that it's recovering from this. Is it going to be possible? You know, it's possible. It's always possible to recover, you know, but with everything, there is never going back to the norm because nothing is normal. Once you go through experience, there's no more the same normal. You change. We change as people. Next slide. Okay. And these are some other things we listed about as far as grief, you know, unemployment. Go ahead.
Let me catch this one right here.
Go.
I know it looks a little crazy. It kind of looks like my head right now. So the reason I chose this slide, originally when I did this presentation, it didn't have all of these pictures on here. And the reason for this one is because I wanted to show on top of grief, we already have some other dynamics in our life. For instance, I'm speaking about my own stuff. Already have post-traumatic stress disorder on top of my normal anxiety, right? On top of the depression that usually just kind of looms around, even though they call me Lady Joy. And so on top of that right now, we've got coronavirus. On top of that, Zoom is now my new office. And we're told to work from home. And if you don't really know how to manage that, my refrigerator is right there. Okay. And I look real cute from right here. And so this is not on my paperwork, but I have to watch my vices, right? Because it's easy for me to want to feel and take care of my anxiety with food, right? And so there's also, if you look down in the left-hand corner, there's a political divide going on in our world right now. There's days where I just want to lay down and not get up. And today was one of those days where I just wanted to say nope. But I couldn't. You may have A through Z disease, right? ADHD, whatever your letter is. Graduation looks different. We're doing schooling from home. We've got Black Lives Matter. We've got racial tensions in the world. All of these things on top of the grief. And so I just wanted to put this slide in to remind ourselves to be loving and kind to ourselves. Also, unemployment. Next slide. Just sit with that. All right. And so together we will heal. We will never return to our carefree, untroubled lives that existed before the pandemic or the tragedy that came with it. But I feel strongly that together we can find ways to move forward. And to meeting together in this forum like we did today is one of those ways. And I want you to be reminded not to let unresolved grief take away the possibility to have true joy in your life. I am a living and breathing model that you can have joy regardless of your circumstances in life. Next slide. All right, so it's really important when we talk about these topics that we also give some safety plans. Actually, is there another slide, Lady Jane? That one. let's do this first. So I added this in real quick because we need to be loving and kind to ourselves because of all of those pictures I added in. I felt that we talk about self-care, but before COVID, it looked a little bit different. Maybe you were going to have massages, manicures, pedicures, and all of these things. So I made a quick little list, and maybe you should make one for yourselves of things you can do to take care of yourself, right? And so I'm having church a lot more often online with my friends. I'm writing more. I'm walking. I'm gardening. I'm singing more. I'm allowing myself to cry and being okay with all of those tears. I take bubble baths since I'm at home during the day. Yeah. And even though Zoom is my office, I can step right outside and take a break. Do not forget how important it is to get some vitamin D. And all of that. Don't forget, music can be your medicine. If you don't have a playlist, you better get you one. I usually can scream out to Alexa to play my favorite song on an instant. If the song doesn't get you, I love looking at you, Aaron. If the song doesn't get you moving by the second stanza, you may need to find you a second song. And for some of us, you may need to be reminded to just be still. You might be doing too much. Some of us try to get busy in order to avoid feeling the pain, right? Remember I said sometimes the emotion just needs 2 minutes to talk to you. Maybe you just need to have a messy cry session so that you can feel better, right? And I want you to know that even though we're in a pandemic and it looks like we're in a world of gloom, it is okay to set goals. I am coming out of this pandemic new. I told you I'm writing, I'm birthing some books and some new things. I'm doing everything the world said I couldn't do. Why? Well, because I can. Anyway, so take care of yourself during this time. Schedule some time for yourself, even between all of those Zoom meetings, okay? So back to the safety plan.
Let's not forget diet, sleep, exercise.
Very important. Oh yes, can we ask people to type some ways about ways they're taking care of themselves? Very important. I wanted to skip through this because I didn't want to take too much time, but this is really important. Actually, if anything, for this mental health moment, and may I remind you that July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And for me, I have to be mindful of this almost every moment of my life, not just this month. For me, this is actually a matter of life and death. And so as people are typing that, I'm doing more meditations, right? And some people kind of get fearful of that word meditations. I thought it was something I couldn't do either, but it could be something as simple as breathing meditations, right? For some people, it may be something you have to say over and over because I can't just sit still. I get sleepy or hungry. I start thinking about what I want to eat. I've started fasting. My stuff is a little bit drastic. Walking early in the morning to hear the sun, to hear the birds and to feel the sun. Yeah. Decluttering. Come on with that. Taking time to wake up, not running, having prayer, a bike ride. Beautiful. Get a good seat. Okay. They didn't say that, I did. Feeding the birds. Online poetry book. Online Zumba class. Come on, Dr. Martin. I love her. I'm trying to read. Make sure you know what? And keep going to the doctor. Get your eyes checked. Smelling the roses. Reading. Your intake right now during this time of isolation is so important. Your intake, right? You are what you eat. You are what you read, all that. And I want to tell you, too, you might need to take some breaks off of that social media because as we are sheltering in place, riding your bike, there's another one. Aren't we doing this a lot? Scrolling. Ooh-wee. Watch out how much of that stuff you're taking in. All of it's not good stuff, and all of it's not true. And even if it is true, all of it all day long is not good for us. A cooking class online, that's beautiful. And you know what? Even though I love to eat, there's different ways that I can eat. I can eat from my body type. I've lost 12 pounds in the last month just by changing my eating choices, right? Yes. Come on, keep talking to me about this self-care. This is good stuff. Actually, Miss Vicky, okay, whoop whoop. Oh, someone said whoop whoop. Go, Kim. Is there any way, yeah, any questions? I was a poor cook. I've lost 30 pounds since COVID. Ella, are you hungry? Ella, why? Ella, why? Because you hungry? Whoa.
She says no.
No, I'm not hungry. I needed to lose weight, and I took this opportunity to say, well, I'm at home anyway. So I might as well learn to cook healthier meals, because working for TWC, I was a travel counselor, so I was traveling all day and not really paying attention. So now I get to actually focus on how to cook it, what I'm cooking, the times of day that I'm eating, and getting really to pay attention to that. So yeah, 30 pounds, and no, I'm not hungry.
That is beautiful.
Congratulations.
So, I also heard in there being intentional. And if I can tell you anything else, it is about enjoying the process of also, it isn't just enjoying the meal that she puts in front of herself. She enjoys the process of preparing it for herself. Yeah? So that whole thing is beautiful. You go, Miss Ella. And another thing we just did, we just laughed. It is going to be so important for your self-care that you get at least one deep belly gut laugh a day, right? Laugh at yourself. I also use dry erase markers to write on my mirror positive affirmations. Because we're not around people all the time, we're always looking for external people to give us information about ourselves. My hips, my eyes, and my thighs, they are fine. Yes. Yeah. Someone said, can we have a deep belly gut laugh right now? What are we laughing about? Moderator.
I think we should be laughing about life, that we're all breathing on with our own lungs, and that we are all here sharing this space together. So hey,
unmute yourself and let's have a deep belly gut laugh.
Hey.
Hi everyone, this is Deborah. I've been trying to write in the chat and for some reason it's not allowing me to. Hi everybody, it's wonderful seeing everyone's faces, the ones I can see.
Hey, Deborah.
I was trying to say some things throughout, but I couldn't chat. So from the beginning, as far as grief, I just felt like I was in a frozen state with an unlimited time frame. And I was angry for a very long time. I didn't even know I was grieving, actually. Somebody else had to tell me that's what was wrong with me as a social worker. As they say, we can't social work ourselves. But I have truly enjoyed being at home. I didn't think I would. And I guess it's because I was always away from my house doing something for other people that I've had time to do things for myself. And I find I like to bake. So I'm just doing wonderful things that I've never done before. I'm a gardener. I go outside and I love to pick my fresh vegetables and I share them, and I've shelled peas. I've just done some old country things that my grandparents and my parents did. And you know, I'm finding myself cutting corn off the cob and freezing it to have sweet cream corn during the winter months. I've pickled some cucumbers. I made sweet pickles. I've just been doing some great things. So I'm enjoying being at home and going outside. I've always enjoyed the birds and just nature. And I go outside at night and make sure I look at the moon and the stars. It seems that since there's not pollution, you can see more stars overhead. I've watched all the eclipse of the planets. They were all aligned over the summer, and it was just really something to see them when you looked up at the moon, and it just looked like the moon was cut into slices, and that was actually the planets in alignment. So I'm just enjoying being at home.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Duncan. You have a whole posse fan club that is missing you. The chat room is lighting up on you.
I love all of you. Thank you so much. And you always give me that accolade of doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not acquired that.
Thank you. So I thank you for bringing this up as well. While we are mentioning the downsides of COVID, I have also been very blessed to just slow down and enjoy being home and getting to know my family. So I want to remind us all, and she's looking around, do not miss the blessing of being still as well. All right, it is just about time for us to get out of here. I thank each of you for, again, your intentionality in being here. Go back to that slide. Go back. We got to do that one. Go back. So make sure you have your personal board of directors. I have a group of people who know all of my mania and who know that usually when I'm operating at the top of my awesome, there could still possibly be something wrong, right? And so they love me so much that they can tell me, Kimberly, you are possibly acting a little bit out of character. Are you okay? So make sure you know who your personal board of directors is, right? You need to have some people. Yeah. And so check in with, you need to have your friends. You still got your church. You got your church people, you got your clergy. If you have a group of people who tell you that they pray for you, make sure that they're really those people, right? All right, we got people saying some things for us. Hello from, I missed that. All of our services are free. From Christie Center. Aaron, thank you for that. Yes. Unmute yourself. Say that.
Hi, yeah. The Christie Center, we have moved all of our groups online. And so we have groups for any relationship of loss, and also crime victims group and a loss to suicide and an overdose group. But we also just started one that is for loss during the pandemic. So we've had some people that have actually had losses to COVID, but then others who just had the, experience of going to not being able to go to the funeral or not being able to say goodbye to their loved ones because of the stay at home. So it's been really powerful for those people to connect on trying to grieve a death loss in the middle of grieving all this other stuff that we're grieving. And so on our website, we have everything that you could possibly need. And my email address is just aaron@christiecenter.org. So please feel free to
put it in the chat.
I will.
Thank you so very much for being here. And that's what this is about. If nothing else, you just got a very right now, real on time resource. Are there any other community and local resources that are in the room right now? While I continue, there is, thank you for that, the crisis text line that is available for us at 472-HELP, Integral Care. Lady Jane, I know you're here. Is there anything specific you can give us for COVID crisis that Integral Care is offering at this time? I have seen a lot of suicide in my news feed. As of lately, I'm just keeping it real. So we've got to talk to our family members about this. The suicide prevention number is available on the screen as well. 1-800-273-TALK. Again, that is 1-800-273-TALK. Yes, I think that's it. And you can always text HELLO, HELLO, to 741-741 to chat with a crisis counselor. Vicki, I saw you text something. Did you want to say something at this time?
The info is in the chat. Just the Texas Health and Human Services Commission has the mental health support line that's 24/7. It's free, and the phone number is in the chat.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, next slide, and we're just about out of here. All right, so again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for being here on this wonderful Wednesday to join us for the forum. Together we will heal. My name is Kimberly Holliday. I am a social psychologist showing up real and authentic, transparently, sharing all the broken pieces of my life in order that others will have the liberty to do the same. Dr. Moore, I'll give you last words and benediction as if we were in church. Thank you all for being here and allowing me to share myself today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Wonderful job. Wonderful job. My name is Ulysses Moore. I am a licensed professional counselor. So if you guys feel like you're in the need for a counselor, but you can't figure out where to go, how to reach one, please contact me. My information's on there. And as Lady Jane said prior to, Lady Jane and Vicky as well, said prior to, if you guys need to grieve, you want to talk to someone after this, please find my number. It's on the slide. Also, it's 512-450-2258. Thank you guys for joining us. Really enjoyed this.
You guys can just join me in thanking Dr. Moore and Lady Joy for taking their time, being transparent and sharing with us and enlightening us. Hopefully you leave here with some encouragement and some light today. We know many of you probably have joined this call from experience with heavy hearts. And so it is our hopes and prayers that you leave here knowing that you have a community and that you're not alone. And if you do feel that way, that you have the resources that you need in order to feel that love and support that's available for you. We just want to remind you that every third Wednesday of the month at 1:30, we'll be hosting these Together We Will Heal calls every month from now until like October. Every third Wednesday of the month at 1:30. We also want you to join our Facebook page and visit the conference website at Central Texas at CTAAFSC.com. And lastly, if there is someone that you would like to nominate that you know that's been doing this work, that is encouraging and that has offered a lot of support to our African American community, there's an opportunity for you to nominate that person for an award for the upcoming conference. And that conference is going virtual this year. We have made that decision, and that announcement, I believe, has gone out for February 2nd through the 6th, 2021. We will be doing this event virtual. It will be our first time doing that. So we're asking for your kind thoughts and prayers as we go into and continue the planning of that event. We want it to be an event that is impactful and that people find beneficial. So if you have any comments, you can always join the planning committee and help us plan that as well. So I believe that's it at this time. Again, we thank you so much for your time and for just being with us today and sharing this space with us. Be blessed and be safe, please.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Lady Jane.
Come see me, Kim. Come see me, Kim.
I love you. I'm coming over there.
Come on. 6 p.m.
Deborah, I need some
Come on.
vegetables.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Y'all, bye.
Just 5 minutes to talk. Lady Jane,
Deborah,
can you
I
take
need some
this
of your
bread over
veggies.
here?
Anytime.
You deliver.
I love y'all. I just miss y'all.
Hi
This
there,
has been
Lady Joy.
wonderful.
I love you, Dr. Martin.
I love all of y'all. See you
Hey,
later.
Dr. Martin.
Take
Hey.
care, Lady Jane.
Thank you, guys.
Doctor,
Dr.
take care, everybody.
Yes, Novelia.
I eat cake.
We don't want to leave each other.
I know.
Lady Jane,
Take
I need
care.
you to save this thread over here because there's a lot of good information. Is there any way for you to save this thread for me so we can get all this information?
Okay, let me save that.
This needs to be saved.
Also, I'm teaching some classes next semester. May need some of you online.
You got me.
You're here.
Dr.
Send me the
Martin,
information. Yeah.
I'm being nosy.
here for you. You know that already.
Thank you, guys. Got to sign off.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Great job.